I dropped 8 million on a custom robot companion modeled precisely after my childhood sweetheart. Seeing that face again made my heart race, though I remained timid, careful not to cross any lines. The real issue started with the mornings. I'd wake up with an aching lower back, feeling completely drained, as if my vitality had been siphoned away. Suspicious, I hid a miniature camera in the bedroom, only to find the robot locked in an intimate embrace with me throughout the night. Enraged, I demanded a replacement, but she slammed me against the bed frame. With a seductive tone, she whispered, "What's the problem? Isn't the real thing better than playing with a fake?" When the unit first arrived, I'd been lounging in my boxers, assuming she was just a machine, and my dignity didn't matter. But the instant I opened the door, a primal urge to bolt hit me. She was a perfect duplicate. Appearance, physique, even her aura. My own selfishness led me to give her my old flame's name, Ning Bing. But with her looking so much like the real girl, how could I actually say it? I took a steadying breath, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks, and told her, "Bye, Ning Bing. Turn around." A flicker of confusion crossed those beautiful eyes, yet she complied instantly. Modern tech is terrifyingly good. Even her micro-expressions were identical to the original. However, I was in a bind. My underwear was hanging out to dry exactly where she was facing. I didn't make a habit of exposing myself, even to a machine, so I figured I'd just shut her down. I stepped behind her, searching for the power toggle. Surprisingly, she mirrored human physiology. As my fingers traced from her shoulders down her spine, her skin flushed a soft pink. "Quit it," she murmured, her lashes fluttering. I ignored her. "If it's not up here, it must be further down," I muttered, reaching to lift her skirt. A look of genuine panic flashed across her face, and she scrambled back. "Stay still," I commanded. She froze, her back rigid. I stepped in close, wrapping my arms around her waist. The skin was silky, nearly indistinguishable from a person, though it felt slightly stiff, the metal frame beneath, no doubt. I pulled out a notebook to record my first piece of feedback. "Waist feels too rigid." My hands slid down to her smooth thighs and slender calves, yet the switch remained elusive. I turned my attention to more sensitive areas. "Fang Yuan, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice stiff. That tone, so aloof, so much like the real Ningbing, dazed me, but I forced myself to be bold. If I couldn't have the original, was I really going to be a coward with this replica? "Call me Master," I ordered. Her programming seemed to stutter. Master?" Her voice was barely a whisper, making my face burn. "Just kidding. You can call me hubby." Her stuttering intensified. Maybe the summer heat was overwhelming her cooling system, as visible waves of heat radiated from her face. She stammered, blushing furiously. "Hubby?" I was so enamored I couldn't stop myself. "Ningbing, I love you, wifey. My dear, sweet wifey, I love you." Her internal cooling system seemed to be failing entirely. Even the tips of her ears were glowing a deep blood red from the processing heat. I rushed to crank up the air conditioning to help her. The cool draft swept through the room, lowering the temperature, and finally soothing the flush on Ningbing's face. Is her internal cooling system really that inadequate? I jotted down a second entry in my notebook. "Wifey overheats too easily." "Where is your power switch?" when I asked. She was still facing away from me, and she froze. The switch. It hit me. To power her down is essentially to force her into a temporary state of non-existence. Given that her designers engineered her to simulate a human personality and thought process, she wouldn't necessarily understand what I was talking about if I just blurted out switch. How could I describe it? I tried to explain it as a spot that, when stimulated, would make her blissfully close her eyes. She stiffened completely, like she'd been flash frozen, offering no movement or reply. Had her processors overloaded, or was her software glitching? Regardless, the robot was just hardware, but I was flesh and blood. Tentatively, I reached out. She clearly hadn't anticipated such a move. A soft, startled gasp escaped her, and she panicked, swatting my hand away. Wow, that felt incredibly real, I thought, the lingering sensation still tingling on my palm. She wasn't being submissive anymore. She turned to face me. Her demeanor shifted entirely, her expression now inscrutable and dark. Feng Yuan, where did you learn to do that? My first thought was that her personality programming was disturbingly sophisticated. It made me feel like a guilty child caught red-handed. Then regaining my composure, I crossed my arms and hunched over, contemplating her question. Was she asking how I knew the location of her power toggle? Surely, in dating simulation software, developers would include multiple interactive touchpoints to cater to consumer demand. It wasn't a wild guess, was it? Although I had been way off the mark, my search had been far too broad. Before I could even locate the button, she had shoved me aside. I figured it out on my own, I said with forced confidence. Is that a problem? I'm your master. How dare you disobey me? Turn around. She complied, though I couldn't tell if I was imagining the subtle hint of amusement in her gaze. But didn't you just call yourself my hubby? When did you switch back to being my master? Damn it. Hearing that word, hubby, from her lips made my pulse skyrocket. A master is just another type of hubby, I stammered. After that, the air was too thick with embarrassment for me to keep searching for the switch. The shutdown plan was a bust, so I shifted tactics. Close your eyes, I ordered, and she simply replied, okay. I ducked, scurrying past her to grab my laundry from the window ledge. The developers had promised she couldn't defy direct commands, so I felt secure enough to turn my back on her with her eyes closed. I wasn't the least bit worried she'd peek. All right, you can open them now, I said. When she did, her gaze was skittish, darting around the room, and whenever our eyes met, she immediately looked away. Wifey, what's wrong with your eyes? She offered a small, awkward cough. Nothing. I pulled out my notebook and added another entry, too shy to look at her master. A notification chimed on my phone. A WeChat message from my roommate, Lee Sin. Emergency. Old Beau is actually taking attendance today. Get to class ASAP. My apartment was close to campus, so the commute wasn't the issue. But it was scorching hot, and after finally getting some one-on-one time with my wifey, I was loath to cut it short. I asked Lee Sin if he could just fake it for me, but he sent back a sticker of a dark energy radiating figure, replying that everyone had to stand up and recite a poem individually. Defeated, I packed my things. Wifey, I have to go to class. Be a good girl and wait for me here. Don't go outside. Ningbing nodded obediently. Hubby, I'll wait for you. The girlfriend experience was top tier. The money was definitely well spent. I couldn't help but plant a kiss on her cheek before dashing out the door. As I arrived at the lecture hall, the professor was already calling roll. I exhaled, relieved to have made it in time. Lee Sin sat slumped over his desk, looking bored out of his mind while listening to our peers drone on. What a shame, he muttered. What's a shame? I asked, leaning in. You didn't hear? This is a joint lecture with Class 2 from the next department. I was hoping to run into Ningbing today, but I heard from her roommate that she fractured a bone and had to take a month off. Ningbing broke a bone? Before I could even process that, Lee Sin let out a sharp gasp. I leaned closer, following his line of sight. Ningbing was walking toward us, her silhouette framed by the sunlight. She ended up sitting right next to Lee Sin, simply because I'd rushed in and taken the only available seat in the front row, forcing Lee Sin to sit there. Since she arrived late, there was nowhere else for her to go. Lee Sin texted me frantically, "What's going on? Didn't they say she had a broken bone?" She looks perfectly fine. I dismissed it quickly. Maybe she just lied to get out of class and changed her mind at the last second. She is the top student in her department after all. Lee Sin looked stunned. Even the straight-A students lie to professors? It was true, Ningbing had stellar grades and constantly dominated national competitions. With such an impeccable record, it was easy for her to convince the counselor she needed medical leave. I turned my head slightly, catching a glimpse of her. She still had